All right, guys, welcome to the show. Got a busy one for you, so I'm going to play for you in just a second. Man, a lot of countries are just completely and utterly giving Israel the middle finger now. They've had enough. And we're getting some amazing moments as a result of it. Wait until you hear this speech from this Irish politician. Then we'll get to Tucker Carlson absolutely copes and seethes over the Trump verdict. A lot to say about that. The people who were on the jury for the Trump trial, they're in danger. You got Trump people trying to dox them now on a daily basis. Trump yet again caught behind the scenes, talking to big money donors and saying things that are absolutely nuts, just out of this world. Then we'll get to Bill Maher predicting a race war. Nick Fuentes might be abandoning Trump. And also, we have a bar in Idaho that is now all in on celebrating straight pride, heterosexual pride. There's a lot to say about that story. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into it. So this guy is an Irish politician. His name is Thomas Gould. And this went viral because he did not hold back one bit. Now, remember, guys, generally speaking, the Irish are actually very pro-Palestine. And the reason that is because they see parallels between their history in dealing with Britain and the Palestinians' history in dealing with Israel. So there's like a kinship there. They understand the struggle for freedom and liberation and independence. And so, without any further ado, let's listen to him.
Photographs and the pictures and the videos that come from there. And you hear the screams of people screaming as the Israeli government burned men, women and children alive. They burned them alive. And the world stands by while 15,000 children are being slaughtered. 35,000 men and women and children. And it's unbelievable, the genocide that's happening. A child with no head. And the Israeli government say it's a mistake. I hope that Benjamin Netanyahu burns in hell the same way them children and their families burned. I hope him and his generals and the far-right government in Israel, that when their God finally brings him to the resting place, that he deserves to burn in hell. Because what is happening now, not alone is it apartheid, not alone is it atrocity and a war crime, it's just horrific. It's just horrific what they're doing. Where is their soul? Where is the soul of the Israeli people that allows their government to do this to children? Where is their humanity? The Israeli people, the Jewish people, after everything the Jewish people have suffered down over the decades, that they would allow their government to do this to other human beings. Human beings. But in the eyes of Netanyahu and this far-right Israeli government, Palestinians are human beings. But today here, the Irish people say, we recognize Palestine. We recognize that they are human beings, just like every one of us. Shame on Israel. Shame on what they've done, and will never be forgotten.
They're losing the world, man. They're losing the world. I mean, it was inconceivable that European countries, they'd be saying stuff like this, right? Inconceivable until Israel unleashed a complete and utter genocide and ethnic cleansing. But here we are. So look, I'm going to take it one step further, though, because what's got to happen? What's got to happen is every country that has trade with Israel needs to cut it off. Every country needs to recall their ambassador and cut off all ties with Israel. Every single one. And look, I'm not an optimistic person, if you can't tell. But that would force change. There's no way around it. if you're a complete and utter international pariah to the extent where, and it's not just lip service, not just, hey, we disagree, we'll let you know that we disagree, right? It's got to be, we're going to cut off all ties. There's going to be no diplomatic ties. There's going to be no economic and financial ties. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. You have to force their hand. And look, ideally, you would have Joe Biden, the leader of the superpower, with Israel as our client state. You'd have him cut off the money, cut off the weapons, condemn at the UN, sanction the government officials, basically force upon them a peace deal that they have to abide by, that they have no choice, right? That's ideally what would happen. But the fact of the matter is, Joe Biden is a committed ideological Zionist. He's also bought by AIPAC, like so many politicians in the U.S. So that leadership and that moral vision is never going to come from him. It's just not. That means the only other way is to force their hand by cutting off diplomatic and economic ties. And look, if every country that has ties with Israel did that, that would absolutely force change. Because you can't function as a total and utter pariah state, right? I mean, look at how restricted North Korea is because they're a complete pariah state. Now, of course, China sends them a lifeline, right? But they are just overwhelmingly disconnected from the rest of the world, and it is not possible to live like that. And so that's the way to force change. And we may be beginning to see that unfolding. Because every day, there's another country that officially recognizes Palestine, right? I don't know how much longer this can go on while the world sits by idly and watches. The U.S., call a spade, lost cause, right? It's a lost cause. Biden's done his little virtue signal, oh, I don't agree with them, but here's all the money and here's all the weapons and you keep going, I'm not going to do anything to stop you. You can't rely on the U.S. It's not going to fucking happen. So it's going to require a tremendous act of organization and moral clarity from all these other countries. But the fact that we're now seeing things like this roll out there, that does not bode well for Israel. They need to be treated like apartheid South Africa was, right? That's why, by the way, why did Israel so viciously and brutally crack down on BDS, boycott, divestment, and sanctions? Because they knew that it had the potential to work. That's why they called it anti-Semitic. That's why, you know, in the U.S., for example, you have all these laws that popped up that said you can't boycott Israel, a total restriction on freedom of speech in this country that's supposed to value freedom of speech. That's why. That's why. Because it could work. And they're terrified of it. Well, now we're entering a new era. And hopefully everybody follows through with that. Very, very powerful speech that was delivered here. When you have people saying, I hope you burn in hell, Netanyahu. And we have multiple countries now making a point, European countries making a point of saying, yeah, we recognize Palestine. It's like, you know how the U.S. was sort of isolated during the Iraq War because of Bush and Cheney and snubbing the UN and all that stuff. This is that on steroids because we are the superpower. This is the client state of the superpower. They don't have as many ways to fire back at the countries that are isolating them. We did. The dollar is the world reserve currency. We can issue sanctions. There's all sorts of stuff we could do to get people to fall in line, cut off subsidies, etc. All sorts of stuff, right? Israel doesn't have those same sort of levers. They have the U.S., who they buy, who they try to get us to do their bidding, right? But at the end of the day, we wear the pants. But this is, they're more isolated now than they've ever been before. And hopefully that forces some change. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.